Today we're going to be talking about beading. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts. Have you ever done beading before? It's lots of fun. It's calming, relaxing. It's handwork, right? Now, if you're like me, you love all kinds of different beads. I have all kinds of different beads, and to be honest, I haven't done a lot with them. So let's draw you into that vortex of beading as well and start you on your bead collection by talking about what you need and how you start off with beading, some things to consider. So first off, it's sort of like doing hand embroidery in that you can use a hoop to do it. So I've got some fabric here and I've got it hooped up just like I would for hand embroidery. Of course, you can add beading to clothing, quilts, all kinds of things. But if you just want to make something that's kind of blingy looking that you want to put on your wall, why not start in an embroidery hoop? Okay, that's what I'm going to show you today anyway. Now, a few things about beads, things you'll need, right? Besides the beads, and I'll show you those in just a moment. You need some thread to attach them to, whether it's garments or whether it's a quilt, whatever it is. In this case, this fabric in my embroidery hoop. So there's different kinds of threads you can use. One of the common ones that you'll hear people talking about is this Dymo thread. Now it comes in different colors. I have it in white. It is a, I don't know what, kind of a waxed, I don't know if it's nylon or polyester, I'm not sure. I don't really care what it is. All I know is it works really well for beading. Okay, so it's strong. It'll hold the beads on there. It's not going to break easily. All right. You can get it in different colors. I mentioned I have it in the white because it's kind of invisible in the white. Okay, so I don't see it very much. For when I don't want to see the thread, I just want to see the beads, right? Which is most of the time. But maybe you're working with some beads and you do want to see the thread. So here I have some spaghetti from Wonderful. Not something I can eat, but something I can use for either hand embroidery or for beading. So it's a 12 weight thread. It's not much thicker than the Dymo one thread that I have here. I know it's probably hard to see that because it's, white or almost invisible, but it's not much thicker and it's strong as well, so it'll work very well. Yes, you'll see it with the beads. That would be the intent, right? So you can use those kinds of threads. I wouldn't use a rayon thread. I wouldn't use your regular, cotton threads you use for piecing your quilts, for example. May not be quite strong enough, okay? So you want something strong, something that's not going to break easily when you're working with beads. Something else you're going to want is a needle. I just got a small, I think this is like a sharps or something like that. It's just, you can get beading needles, but I found these work really well too. Small head. You might need to get a bigger size needle if you have bigger thread. This is the same thread as I used, or the same needle I should say, as I used with the Dymo thread, and it threaded no problem. Okay, so, and I like to use a threader like this. This actually worked for that very small eye in that needle. And this is from Bohin. There's different ones that you can get, but you can check below to see information about getting one of these that work with two different sizes of needles, very small ones, and then ones with a bigger eye. Of course, you're going to need your scissors. Glasses, of course, if you need them. And then, of course, the fun part is the beads. I'm just going to move things over for a moment here so we can take a look at the beads. And you need something to keep your beads in. Now, you don't have to get a fancy bead container. It's always fun to think outside the box and use something else, and that's exactly what I've done here. This is actually, it's going to sound really strange, this is a Tupperware meat keeper. So it would be something you would keep like deli meats in, right? Which I don't usually eat, so it works great for my beads and my notions I need when I'm beading. So got the lid here, and you can see that there's a bit of a depth there, like a shelf sort of thing. And I always put a piece of batting in there, okay? And I'll put my beads out in here, all right? The reason I do that is because the beads have a tendency to bounce, right? So if I'm putting some out here and it was on the hard plastic, they might bounce and bounce right off onto the floor or somewhere like that. I don't want my kitties to eat them, so, or loose beads either. So I like to put some batting down, and it keeps it from popping around. I've got some thread conditioner there, more ways to thread my needle should I need it. I've got this little scoop, which is also good for getting into some of my beads are in little bags like this. I can just kind of reach in and scoop a few out, put them down. It's kind of helpful. So here's the fun part. Here's the beading. Here's my beading. Here's my longer beading needles if I wanted to use those for longer beads, like some of these bugle beads, okay? These are these long tubes. They can be very sharp on the edges, not to worry about cutting yourself, but often you will put a small bead on either side. They call it a stop bead, and that helps to prevent the friction of just having the thread go through the bugle bead and go down and maybe get cut over time. So if you go through the bugle bead, go through another little bead, little round bead, and go down, then your thread isn't going to be rubbing against the end of that bugle bead. Okay, there's a little tip for you. All right, so I've got my different beads here. I'm going to be working with some of these, maybe these guys today, we'll see, and some of these. And you can see that this has several different compartments, so we can keep going down and see some of the other ones that I have. So I've got all kinds of beads, as you can see. So there's 3 different compartments here. That holds a lot of my beads. It also allows me to take them out and, you know, use them this way if I wanted to, or you can see how I'm using the lid as kind of my little palette, if you will. All right, so let's get some beads out. Let's start doing some beading. So let me bring this back here. Okay, I'll move this off to the side. I don't need this. I've already threaded up a couple of needles here so that you don't have to wait for me to do that. I've got my Dymo in there first. Move that out of the way. And let's pick out some beads, shall we? All right, so let's see here. We've got some of these little tiny seed, what we call seed beads. These are little ones here. And I have them in a kind of a Ziploc bag. You can see here, a little bit bigger than this one, just in case. This one comes open and, you know, I've got, it's kind of a safety measure. So I can get in here, I can get a few of these out. Okay, how many I want, and I'm going to drop them over here. Okay, so I'm going to close that up, right? Put it in here. I do this all the time, even though I may need more of them in a few minutes. I make sure I move them out of the way. So now I've got my little beads here. You can see I've got them here. And then I can pick them up with my needle. So, as I said, I've already threaded this. I will put a knot in the end. You absolutely need to have a knot in the end on the other side of your fabric. It's different ways of doing it, but I like to just do a quilting knot, put it in there. Let's pop it in here, make sure it's going to hold properly because this is a thinner thread, and you see what happened? It popped right out. So we're going to do that again. We're just going to tie another one in there and make sure that it has a big enough knot. This is a big challenge to be able to see the thread that you're working with. And it kind of is, it's not soft, so it kind of springs around. Likes to jump around a little bit on you. Let's see if we can move this down and get that knot close to, if not on top of the other one, and see if that works a little bit better. This will probably be your biggest challenge, getting a big enough knot to go in the back, right? Because you want to make sure that bead is not going to go off. There we go. All right, so we're good. So now I've got my little beads out here, right? And I just kind of go down and I'm going to pick them up. Okay, so you just pick it up on here, and I'm going to show you what would happen with one bead. So I'm going to be moving things around here because I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I've got my bead here and it's going to lay on its side. So my needle, my thread I should say, has gone from right to left through it. All right, so I'm pushing it back a little bit here, and I'm going to take my needle in close to the bead. All right, hopefully close to my bead. My bead popped up on me. Okay, there we go. So what I'm trying to show you is that when I take my needle back down again, I don't want to take it down far away from the bead, all right? Because that lets the bead move around too much, right? You don't want to take it too close, like underneath the bead, or the bead kind of doesn't sit very nicely. It won't sit nice and perpendicular to your fabric, all right? It's not rocket science, but there are a few tips to make it look a little nicer. Okay, let's pick up another bead here. Bonk, just like that. They pop off that batting quite easily, actually. Let's take it down there. Let's do the same thing again. So again, I'm pushing it back just a little bit here with my needle. I know it might be hard for you to see. Put it in. I'm actually too far over there. Let me try that again. This is a nice thing about beading or handwork. You can either just stop right there, do something different. Okay, let's see. That one might be a little further over, but no, that looks okay. All right, so I put these down, 2 individual beads. What about doing a whole line of beads, right? Who doesn't want to have a whole line of beads, right? So what you're going to do there, same thing, you're going to pick up your bead. Oh, that one popped. See how that one, I may not have seen that one pop because it's off camera a bit. But it popped, but it didn't go anywhere because it was on the batting. So I'm going to take a few beads here. So I got that one. I'm going to get a couple more here. And I can kind of just pop them up onto my needle there. So we've got 3 of them here, okay? So Usually, like you might think, well, why don't we just keep adding beads, as many as we want for wherever we're going, right? And just keep putting them on there. Well, you could, but I wouldn't suggest you do that. And the reason is, if something happens to your thread and it gets cut, and you've got 15 beads on there, right? And they're out to here or something, you're going to lose all those beads, right? They're all going to fall off, okay? So you don't want to do that. You want to minimize the bead damage or the bead loss, okay? So what I would do is I will come in here and same kind of thing. I'll put maybe 3 beads on. I'm going to go back down here. My beads are popping on me today. Okay. Let's see if I can go down here. Oops. Get them all in there. Make sure they're lying down nicely. And then I'm going to come up again and go through some more. So I'm going to come up between the first and second bead. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of room there. Always a challenge for me to see exactly where my needle's going. Or not going, as the case may be. Close. Good enough. Okay, so we're going to come up between the first and the second bead, and we're going to go down through the second and third bead. All right, so now my first bead is by himself, right? He's only got 1 strand through there, but these two have 2 strands of thread through there, all right? Which is good because that minimizes the chance of me losing all those beads should that thread break, and then I will go down. Then I will come up again through the second and third bead, if I can. Almost there. Okay. Roughly. And I'm going to come through that third bead. Okay, let's go through there. Okay, and then I can add a couple more. So I will go over here, I will grab, these little guys are popping on me, grab a couple more. Thank goodness for that batting, right? Really works well. And I would put those down, all right? So it's kind of like doing a back stitch in some ways, if you're familiar with that from embroidery, okay? But it keeps them down there nice and tight, and it makes sure that if your thread breaks, that hopefully you'll lose, I should say, maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most beads, right? So you would just keep adding them there. So just continuing to come up between the beads and going through them and adding the next one and next one, that type of thing. So you could add a couple beads, just 1 bead, whatever you would like to do. All right, so that's what you can do with the Dymo brand. I'm just going to pull it over here, if I can, for a second, and put my needle back in here. Okay, so you can see, well, hopefully not, you can't really see that thread, right? So that's the intent. I want to just see the beads. I don't want to see the thread. But what if I do want to see the thread? Okay, so we talked about this other thread that I have, which is the spaghetti, the 12-weight thread from Wonderfill. Now, if I'm going to do this, I would probably pick some bigger beads. So let me grab some bigger beads here, these pretty beads here. Whoops, wrong end. Nope, that is the right end. They haven't been opened yet. Oh my goodness. A brand new package of beads. See if I can get them open. That'll be the next challenge here. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. So I'm going to put a few of these out here. All right. So these are quite different, right? Kind of this iridescent, kind of a dark iridescent. And they're like square, right? But they have bigger holes in them. All right. So I've got my 12-weight thread here. Again, we need some, or I should say, knot. We don't need some. We need one good knot. Okay. Make sure that caught. There we go. And let's pop in here and see what we can do with these. All right. Nope, it's popping out too. This is a pretty good dense foundation fabric I'm using, so I'm surprised these are popping, but they are thinner threads, so go figure. That's not going to work because that didn't go out on top of it. You know, it's very tempting to do the rolling on your finger after you spit on it, isn't it? Sometimes I do. Okay, let's see if that works a bit better. Okay, there we go. All right, so same kind of thing going on with these guys. Let's try and get one of them up there and see what it looks like. There we go. It's kind of weird to have a square bead, isn't it? There we go. Down he goes. So if I wanted to work with him and I want to see my thread, you will see my thread a little bit. But what I could do, so you put that down, is I could come up, again, on the other side of him, if he's staying down there and staying nice and flat, I could come up. There's no hole, right? There's no hole, but I'm coming up and going over top of him. Now, this will require me to do a little bit of fudging with that thread to get it where I want it. Over top. Let's see if we can get that there. Nope, he's pulling down again. It's being difficult today. I'm trying to get the thread so it will actually show as well, right? A little bit. There we go. Okay, so you can see the little thread over top there, right? Let's go back to the beginning again, and let's go over top. So I've secured it by going through it, right? Now I'm really doing some decorative work with my thread, right? So let's see if I can get this one to go and stay initially. Oh, much better behaved. All right, so it looks like a little package almost, right? You can see that little cross that's on top of the bead. So you can do something like that with your decorative colored thread, I should say, decorative colored thread, with your thread that you want to see, all right? So here's another one, all right? So if you put it down here, you really won't see the thread very much, right? But you could do something where you might just have a bead down and then be doing a hand stitch. Let's say you're doing something in between the beads, right? Just do a bit of a running stitch here. And then you want to add another bead. So in this case, if you were going along, I mean, again, the point here is to see the thread, not just the bead. You want to see both. But this is kind of fun because you can do a lot more interesting effects with the colored thread, right? That you can't do with the, I keep calling it Nymo thread. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you could do something like this, right? Yes, let's call it the right thing. Nymo, not Dymo. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's old school, right? Remember Dymo tape? Anyway. All right, so let's just do one more little thing here. And I might, I didn't say this, but I probably would, if I'm doing something like this, knot off after every bead. All right, again, because if it gets caught, and do have just thread on here, if it gets caught on something and tears, breaks, then you're going to lose all your beads, right? And you wouldn't want to lose these beads. These are nice beads, aren't they? Are they pretty? Okay, so let's go back here and grab this other guy. And, oops, we're on the wrong side here. We don't want to grab you yet. All right, let's take that back off. Good thing there's a nice big hole here, and I can just take him off without having to unthread. There we go. Unthread my needle. Let's take another. Put him back on again. Okay, here we go. So you can do a little bit of thinking here. Decide what kind of a design you want to create doing something like this, whether you want to do something around the bead like we did at first, so it looks like a little gift package. It's kind of what it reminds me of. So your thread will show there, or whether you want to do some different stitches in between beads, for example, and you definitely want your thread to show. So whether you want it to show or not show, there are options. All right, so easy enough to do, but you got to have some beads, right? So if you don't have beads, make sure you get good quality glass beads. All right, you may have a beading shop close by, or Michael's has beads as well. So those are great places to get them. Find some container that works really well so you can keep your beads in it. It's nice. This is nice and compact. I love this. And it's, it's fun to carry around and everything. And I've got everything I need in it. Get yourself some batting, right, as well, so your beads don't jump around, okay? So you want to keep them in place. When it comes time that you're finished your beading, you want to make sure that you put your beads away, right? And again, if they're not in this kind of a container, you can have them in the Ziploc bag, like I mentioned, and I would double bag them just in case the inner one gets a hole in it or you didn't quite get it closed all the way. You really don't want to be picking up little beads like this off the floor, trust me. Okay, so let's put these guys back. I'll get to the other tiny ones in a few minutes as well. So I hope you'll try this beading. It's lots of fun and it can be very creative, Good way to add some extra bling to your quilt projects, or like I said, your garments. It doesn't take that long to do it either, and beads are not that expensive. So I hope you'll give it a try. Now, if you're wondering what else you can do with handwork, some hand stitching, don't worry, I got you covered. Check out this video that has all the details you need. And for more helpful quilting information, be sure to go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.